They do not know him who sent me. We could say much the same about St. George as we can say about God. That is to say, we don't know very much about St. George, really, his name and the fact that the cult of St. George Megalomartyr was a long-established one in the Middle East. It would appear it was adopted and brought to this country by the Crusaders. Everything else pretty much is legend. If one were cynical, one might even conclude that St. George as a whole was a legend. But of course, it is not so. The fact that we can say little about someone doesn't mean that they don't exist. Otherwise, we would have to say the same thing about God. When we talk about God, we don't really know what we are talking about. We use the word God for the utterly transcendent cause of all causality, the ground of all being, the source of all goodness, truth, and beauty. But we don't know what God actually is like. We know very little about him indeed. And so today's gospel reminds us, and it reminds us too, that Jesus is not of this world. Though Christ is like us in all things but sin, nevertheless, when we encounter him, we encounter the one who is the utterly transcendent God. And we must never shy away from that strangeness, that foreignness, that unknowability. It's always tempting to explain that kind of thing away, perhaps to be reductionistic, perhaps even to try to tame Jesus, to domesticate him. But the gospel demands instead that we allow ourselves to dare to encounter the foreign, the alien, the incomprehensible, the transcendent, to encounter it and to be transformed by it. And we, in particular, as Christ tells us also in today's gospel, we are not of this world either. Our destiny is to encounter the transcendent God face to face. And even in this world, we must transcend the values of this world. We are called to look upwards and outwards towards another world, the world of heaven, the world of God. As St. Paul tells us in the letter to the Philippians, our commonwealth is in heaven. It is the miracle of our salvation that we, like Christ, can say, "My kingdom is not of this world." And it's for that reason, I think, that it is a cause of great joy for us English that we have a foreign patron saint, a saint about whom all we can really say is that he did not flinch from that call to abandon all of his this worldly hope in the face of the promise of heaven. A cause of great joy, but it's therefore all the more a concern that St. George is sometimes representative of a certain kind of parochialism, representative perhaps of a brand of Christianity in which churches become shrines to regiments of the British Army and the kings and queens of England, instead of the army of the saints and the King of the universe. We have domesticated St. George, turned him perhaps into a dashing knight, Eton, Cambridge, and the Guards, who rescues the damsel in distress, who one imagines was from Hampshire and had a pony as a child, and fighting the dragon, who of course is not English. We don't have dragons in England. They have them in Wales, I believe. There is a serious point here. It is a scandal. It is a scandal to domesticate St. George in this way because it denies the important scandal, the scandal of the cross. The scandal which is the cross of the victorious Lamb, St. George's cross, the victorious Lamb who triumphed over not a Welsh dragon, but the great dragon, Satan. And that cross must not become the badge, not just sometimes of a harmless parochial Englishness, but even of wickedness, racism, and hatred. It is our pressing task as Christians to rescue St. George, to make him and his flag a banner not of hatred, but of openness to the foreign, love of the different, compassion for the alien, excitement about the other. Because if we are not open to the foreign, if we are not drawn to widen our society and our church to the vibrant possibilities of the new and the alien, then how shall we be open to the absolute otherness of God?